America has always been a great market for LEED. The problem is we've always been number 4, and that's okay. There's pride in being number 4. The US is always number 1, East Asia is number 2, Europe comes in 3rd, and then Latin America is right on Europe's tail as number 4. But that's why I'm so excited about what's been happening with ARC in this market, because it's actually bumped us up to number 2 globally. So I'd love to show you a little bit more about why. So the first project to sign up and start using the ARC platform in Latin America was actually in 2015. And over the years, we've had some really wonderful highlights of different projects using the platform to work toward LEED for existing buildings certification. So there's been great projects like the old City Hall building in Mexico City, which is the oldest building to achieve LEED certification in the entire world. We've had elementary schools in Colombia, offices and manufacturing facilities in Costa Rica and El Salvador, hotels, commercial office buildings, and much more. And as you can see from these, managed myself on mute, the majority of the buildings that are seeking LEED and using the ARC platform are hitting gold, which is amazing because it means that when projects decide to adopt the ARC platform and decide to go for LEED, they usually do so with really high success. And I want to jump back here to this slide to just sort of show you what's been going on with our steady increase over the years. We normally add about 20 projects per month, which is great, and I'm very proud of those results. But I'm really excited because we've seen a couple of huge jumps in the numbers this year. And the first big jump that you can see on this graph was in February, when we had over 340 projects come in a single day from Brazil, thanks to Guido, who's going to be speaking next. And then just this last week, we had 240 projects come in from Mexico as part of their reporting for GRESB. So overall in Latin America, the majority of the work is, and interest in ARC is coming from Brazil, followed closely by Mexico and Colombia. But we've also got our top 10 countries for the region, and it's great to see the competition and the engagement, and that all of these markets are responding in such a strong and positive way to what's been happening. So all of this has really led to us zooming up to take a spot on that Olympic podium. We have zoomed right past East Asia and Europe, and we are now number 2 in the world for the most projects that are active in ARC. And I think that that's really an exciting development for the region, and we're really quite proud that so many people in ARC globally. Great, so without further ado, I'd really like to introduce you to our main speaker for today. His name is Guido Petinelli, and he is the founder and CEO of the firm that created that big spike in projects that we saw this past February and has sent us rocketing to the top of the list. Petinelli is an engineering and consulting firm based in southern Brazil, and Guido leads a team of people who are not only passionate about green building and sustainability, but they can really do the math. And they love to compete. They compete with other people, they compete with themselves, they compete to see just how far they can take a project. There are roughly 50 LEED Platinum projects in Brazil, and 60 of them belong to Petinelli, or have been completed by Petinelli. This past year at Greenbuild, let me just see if I can show this photo here, Guido was named a LEED Fellow. And he also received special honors and recognition for achieving not only the first LEED Zero energy project in the world, but also the first LEED Zero water project in the world. And in fact, he's been pushing so many of his projects toward that zero mark for so long that when we first announced LEED Zero, he had his project certified before we even had the official certificate ready to go. So that's how ready he was. So we know that not every project can maybe be LEED, not every project can be zero or platinum, but sometimes just the pure and simple data is all you need to really drive change. And Guido and his team have really figured out how to take the ARC platform and use it as a means to help school districts in Brazil and local governments to understand and manage their energy use. So let me hand it over now to you, Guido. Okay, you should be presenter now. And I think you may still be on mute there. Okay.
Yep, turned on my mic. Thank you, Nicolette. Thank you, Tommy, for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be able to share some of our experiences. Taking a page from Nicolette's words, I think the common denominator is measured performance. We're excited about net zero because for us, it has become a simple way of communicating and even a simpler way for clients to understand what measured performance is. Zero is absolute, performance is relative. But what we see ARC doing is translating a really complex term, concept, which is performance, into a simple indicator, which is a score. And that's really important for us to grow the movement overall. I think as I share some of our experience here, I think this is a recurring theme. But I'm going to follow Galtami's instructions here and start by saying I'm in southern Brazil. I'm in my garden right now, but taking all the necessary precautions, I think, as everybody else. For me, it has been particularly interesting to see how culturally things have changed. Southern Brazil went into a fairly serious social distancing quite early on. All businesses closed down, public transport was stopped. But the interesting thing is seeing how everybody's wearing a mask now. Everybody's washing their hands and using alcohol gel before they enter a supermarket or pay for gas at a gas station. And I think that has a profound impact. I think this whole social experience has a profound impact on what we're doing because in the end, people in the green building movement self-identify as change agents, and I think we will likely see people opening up to change, right? As we question the way we do things, um, the way we want to do things in the future, I think people become more open to change. And a lot of the work we do has to do with that. How do we convince clients to dream bigger? How do we convince them to take the next step? And it's my personal opinion that it's easier to convince a client to do a LEED Platinum building than to do a LEED certified building because it's easier to make them dream about the Olympic podium rather than, everybody else. And so when zero came about for us was, you know, the next obvious step. It's the holy grail of the green building movement. I remember a phrase by Bill Reed saying, you can't really, if you're in the US, you can't really get to Mexico driving slower towards Canada, right? The goal has to be for net positive, regenerative, future. And so the fact that we're working with Lead Zero and now doing ARC at scale has very much to do with that, right? As engineers, and we are an engineering firm, we are obsessed with buildings. I'm South American, so I can be excused saying that I'm in love with buildings, right? North Americans would say you're passionate. I'm in love with buildings and have always been ever since I was a little kid. I don't know why. It's just been an obsession. And I found my tribe in the green building movement. The idea of performance, the idea of doing more with less, the idea of optimization, of capturing waste and using it as an investment to build better. That's something that had an immediate appeal to me. And the work of our company is basically focused on how do we engage clients and how do we show them that there is a better way of building? There is a better way of designing and building buildings. And I think, the result of it has been, the first LEED Zero Energy and LEED Zero Water buildings. But these buildings did not start out as LEED Zero because LEED Zero didn't exist, right? The project in the middle, the upper middle, is an office building, 14,000 square meter office building. We were hired by the client. We showed them how LEED worked. It was immediate. There was an immediate decision to pursue LEED Platinum, but the building also, and this is 6 years ago, said, we've got a really sensitive site here. The building is narrow because of it. Can we treat 100% of our wastewater? And we said, sure, we can if we have enough space. We don't have enough space, but we've got a roof. So the building has a constructed wetland on the roof that treats 100% of wastewater for reuse, gray and black water. And I tell the story because when we certified our offices LEED Zero, we were very excited and we started looking around. We've been working with clients like Coca-Cola or, with schools that I'm going to show you a little bit further. But Eero Business, this office building, was already operational for 4 years. We had the data because we had installed the meters. And it was simple as pulling the data from the building management system, analyzing and saying, listen, we know we're zero, but now we know we're LEED Zero. And it's that key aspect of it, pulling the data. That's pretty fantastic. But for me, there's another aspect to it. We didn't tell the client that we're going to pursue LEED Zero water. We figured, nobody's done this before. If this doesn't work, it's going to be pretty embarrassing. So let's get all the documentation together. Let's get all the data together, and let's see, if it works. And if it works, we'll communicate to the clients. And we got it all together and brought the client into our office and showed him the certificate, the LEED Zero certificate. By that time, there was a LEED Zero certificate. And the client actually started crying. He was crying of happiness. He was emotionally touched. But I think there's something really powerful for me, at least. I mean, in the end, all we were doing was, measuring performance. And the client was moved by the fact that, a lot of the work, a lot of the intentions that they had for the building were being recognized. And so this theme of measured performance has always been part of our DNA. And as young engineers, it takes a little bit of time for us to build up a portfolio of buildings that you can, really go after the data in order to improve the way we design and build. But existing buildings became more and more something that grew within our practice. I'm outside, so I'm imagining that there's going to be some noise. But last year, we committed to certify LEED Zero Energy, our 3 offices in southern Brazil. And I think that we're going to see a lot of our clients who are early adopters look at Zero as a way of talking about performance in an aspirational way, right? So I agree, it doesn't have to be zero to be measured performance, but every zero or net zero building is a building that talks about measured performance. And we're just joining these two concepts. And so for us, it's this drive not only to talk the talk, but to walk the walk. I think any green builder is a bit missionary. It's out there to show the world that there is a better way of doing things. And what better tool we have than measured actual data, right? I heard it from Michael Bloomberg, but I love the phrase, in God we trust, everybody else bring data. I mean, for us, it's already been an incredible tool in terms of expanding the reach of our advocacy with clients. And so with ARC, I think what happened was, if we are obsessed with measured performance and Zero gives us this aspirational goal to reach towards, it was just a matter of time before we said, why aren't we uploading all these projects into ARC? We're already doing it because of LEED Zero, but we started working with a few school boards in Brazil. And so, as Nicolas mentioned, we've got about 350 projects into ARC. The more important part for us is these are all existing buildings going through major, deep green energy retrofits, all aspiring to be net zero energy, right? This is a program that we've been developing with GBC Brazil and with the help of a couple of local governments, but the private sector as well. And in all, I have some of the data here, which answering one of Galtani's question, what have we learned about our portfolio through ARC? And one of the things that I learned is that these 350 projects represent 250,000 square meters of built area. We're talking, I'm sorry, 250,000 people enter these buildings and 700,000 square meters of built area. And so, we're talking about almost a million square meters probably by the end of 2020 in a really short period of time. We're talking about a 2-year period of time. And 250,000 people that are scheduled to be entering into a net zero building every year, a building that has its energy use measured, its energy production measured, and through tools like ARC, easily assessed. I chose one story in particular. We're working with the Adventist Education School Board. It's a fairly large school board. In total, about 60 schools in southern Brazil. We've already done 43 schools. A few of these are already operational. And the fun thing about this is we started with one, right? Because in the end, you've got to prove your concept. But because we're talking about basically making ends meet, right? It's not about certifying a project. It's really about, how am I doing in terms of building performance? Am I spending my money wisely? And more importantly, am I getting, what I paid for? When David mentions that so much about building certification to this point has been about design and construction, I call that the promise, right? We as green builders have been, writing IOUs to our clients saying, if you do these things, you're going to get a great return on your investment. All the benefits are there. The thing is, I actually believe they are there, but we haven't done enough of a good job quieting the naysayers and proving through data that green buildings are what they say they are, and that any self-respecting CFO can't ignore the value proposition posed by these buildings. I mean, yes, we are a little bit obsessed with LEED Platinum, and we committed 4 years ago that all of our buildings would be LEED Platinum. We went from 50% LEED Platinum in 2016 to 100% in 2018 and 19. Last year, all of our projects were LEED Platinum. But the way we're doing that is by showing clients how to tunnel through the cost barrier. The way we're doing these schools is exactly the same. And the fun part about it is ARC has been part of it because we're writing grant applications. So the numbers are as follows. These buildings represent 17 gigawatt hours of energy a year. Just for you to get a simple idea of this, we're talking about 14 megawatt peak of photovoltaic panels. That's enough photovoltaic panels to cover 12 FIFA official soccer fields. It's this is a big project. We're talking about an overall investment of about $20 million in the retrofit of these buildings. 60 million of which are grants. And so for clients, we're talking about retrofitting 350 buildings, benchmarking energy use, showing them the amount of waste, and using ARC as part of the grant applications. Let me show you what waste means. So those 43 schools that you just looked at, 40 of them are very, very, very similar. Similar climates, similar hours of operation, similar construction methods, similar systems. And so we looked at the best performing and the worst performing, and we plotted how much energy per square meter each one of these buildings used, their energy use intensity. And we have buildings that are operating at 10 kilowatt hour per square meter per year, and we have schools that are operating at 50 kilowatt hour per square meter per year. And so I have a difference of 5 to 1. So these are really similar buildings, and that difference is basically building operations, is how we run and operate our buildings. There's an enormous amount of waste out there that we can capture. For these clients, we're talking about simple payback periods of 2 to 2.5 years. So imagine you've got an existing building, you've got a national grant program in Brazil, you've got a portfolio. You can look at it as an expense or you can look at it as a revenue, right? And the work we're doing is showing clients that we can look at sustainability and we can look at net zero from a financial perspective in a much more sophisticated way, and that if it works for one, if you get in to meet for one building, then well, all the buildings are pretty much the same. And if it works for one, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing it for others. So we started out with one, and then it went to three, and then it went to 16, and then it went to 180, and now we're at 350. And I think we've hit an inflection point where, clients are saying, well, if these guys are doing this at scale, they know something that I don't. And I need to figure out what these guys know that I don't, because I don't want to be left out. And so I think we're just at the beginning. Obviously, COVID changes the way decisions are made and investment decisions are assessed. But as I said in the beginning, I think people are going to be more open to change than ever after all of this. And for me, it's a natural conclusion that we are on a path that there's no way back. I don't know how to translate Bill Reed's saying about going slower towards Mexico by going slower towards Canada in terms of reaching Mexico. But I certainly think that we've hit a point where we're moving from early adopter to an early majority market, and the early majority market wants to have a clearly quantifiable value proposition that's been proven in front of them, and benchmarking is incredibly important for that reason. I'm incredibly proud to be able to be part of this project. We wouldn't have been able to do this as quickly as we did if it wasn't for Gautami's help and her team's help and Nicolette's support. But I think we'll now have to work extra hard to reach that number one spot on the ranking. Just to close it off, I know these are hard times, but Gautami asked me, where do you want to go, and what is it going to be like after COVID? And I want to go to Japan. I've never been to Japan. I've always dreamed of going to Japan, and this year was the Olympics, and I didn't get my act together. Missed opportunity. I was regretful of the fact that I didn't get a move on it sooner. But it seems like I'm going to get a second chance. And so there's always a silver lining. You betcha I will be in Tokyo for the Olympics in 2021. And I think that's the silver lining with COVID. The sun will continue rising in the east and setting in the west. And the few months is nothing compared to an individual's lifetime that's counted in decades. And this too will pass, and we'll hopefully be at it with more energy and with clients that are more open-minded than ever about some of these crazy ideas of these creative and audacious engineers that are out there to create trouble.